الله أكبر الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, to this next part of reminders regarding Islamic manners in our lives. And today we're going to be talking about something very important but sometimes forgotten. Sheikh Abu Ghudda rahimahullah, in the end of his book about Islamic manners, by that title, he says that one should be very careful in having the best of manners with their family. Because what we do sometimes is that we apply Islamic manners outside the house and dealing with everyone else, and we strive to do so in the best way possible. But then when we come home, we don't do it anymore. But he brings the hadith, of course, mentioning the rights of the mother, that the mother has rights, then the mother has rights, then the mother has rights, and then the father, and then the next of relatives, and so on, showing that the most important people for us to have the best of manners with is our family. So we want to talk about today some of the manners about coming in and out of one's home. Very subtle things, but they will help us inshallah to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that we do. The first thing is that when we're entering or leaving the home, we should enter or exit with our right foot first. One of the early scholars of hadith, there actually was a sultan, a ruler of Islam, that would sit in his dars, sit in his class, in the front row. And when the sultan left one day, he told him, leave putting your right foot first and walk on the right side of the road. No matter who it was, he was reminding him of the sunnah in terms of how to exit and enter places and how to walk and deal in society. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, gentleness adorns every act, and if it's removed from it, it will disfigure it. It will make that action ugly. And subhanAllah, sometimes we think that Islam is only about strength and izzah and power and showing that we're strong and all these different things, but also the Prophet ﷺ is showing us another side of our actions, saying that gentleness adorns every act, and if it's removed from an act, it will disfigure it. Another thing that we should be careful of is when we enter or exit a place, especially entering though, and others are asleep. Sometimes we come home at night, our parents may be asleep, a sibling may be asleep, and we don't pay attention to how we deal in the home. Do we enter quietly? Do we walk softly? Do we raise our voices in talking to one another and ignore their rights, or do we handle ourselves in an appropriate way? It's narrated that the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he would come in and he would pray at night. And they said that he would pray and he would lead prayer in such a voice that those who are awake could benefit and love the recitation, and those who are asleep would not be disturbed. It's also narrated by another one of the companions, Al-Miqdad. He says that we used to keep milk in the house for the Prophet ﷺ, and he would come at night to get that milk, and he would speak in such a voice that the people who were awake could hear him and deal with him, and the people who were asleep would not be disturbed by him. Another manner of when we come in and when we exit, and sometimes we neglect the latter, is to say salam, to say assalamu alaikum. Sometimes we get in the habit of hello, how are you, hey, what's going on, all these type of different greetings, and that's fine afterwards, but we should always begin and end our conversations with assalamu alaikum. The Prophet ﷺ, he ordered us to do so, and then he said, say salam when you come into a gathering, and say salam when you leave the gathering, and the second one is not less important than the first one. This is an important lesson from the Prophet ﷺ. It's something small, but if we start the gathering with salam and we end the gathering with salam, that means that we started and ended this gathering with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making dua for our brothers and sisters. Another thing is that when we come home, we should announce our presence in some sort of way. We shouldn't sort of like sneak in on our family or barge in and they don't know that we're coming. Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiallahu anhu, he's told his family, or he told people in general, he said when you come home you should clear your throat or tap your shoes or something along these lines to let your family know that you're coming. And what's beautiful is after he says that advice, he actually implements it. Sometimes we tell each other to do things, but we don't implement them. May Allah help us and give us strength. But his son narrates that my father, when he used to come home, he would clear his throat and he would tap his shoes around the door, and then we would know that he's coming home. Or something we can do, for example, we're coming home and we put the key in the door and we give it sort of like a little knock and wait a second and then open the door and go in. Another thing is that when we come to someone else's door, how do we come to their door? The first thing is we should knock gently. We shouldn't bang on the door so hard that people think something crazy is going on. We should knock loud enough so that they can hear. And if nobody answers, we should wait a long enough time so that they can finish maybe a couple of rak'ats of prayer, a couple units of prayer. Maybe they're making wudu, maybe they're doing something else. Wait maybe 5 minutes, couple minutes, 3, 5 minutes, knock again. then wait again, knock again. If we knock 3 times and nobody answers, then the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to leave. And another thing is that when we're waiting in front of the door, we shouldn't stand directly in front of the door so that as soon as they open the door, we're looking into the house. We should stand off to the side a little bit or turn to the side a little bit after we've knocked, but so that they can see who's there, but so that when they open the door, you're not going to be looking into their home and invading their privacy. All of these are small things that we can do in order to beautify our manners in dealing with one another and hopefully soften our hearts in dealing with one another. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to beautify our manners so we can be on the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who Allah said about him, verily you are on the best of manners. Jazakumullah khairan, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.